Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Gopal Ponangi. I'm your host today, and I welcome you all for this special evening in iAsia News. We are fortunate to have a discussion about the ongoing runoff elections here. And joining along with me are Lakshmi Tumala, and later on we'll also have Angelia Pelham with us. So Lakshmi Tumala has been, a community leader for a long time here in Frisco and the Dallas areas. And in fact, she was one of my mentors. She is the person who has introduced me to this political life, political space, and all. So I'm very grateful for her. And then it's such a pleasure to have a conversation with her on this channel about this current runoff election. Lakshmi Garu, thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you for everything you do. You're on Frisco ISD board, and I know you work very hard on that. So thank you.
Yes. I mean, of course, we learn mutually inspiring each other. That's how it is. And first of all, for our listeners, some of our listeners, they may already be aware that there's a runoff election happening. But for some of our friends, can you share a little bit about what this runoff is and then what it means, and give some foundational information about this?
Absolutely. So this is a city council election. Most of the partisan elections, partisan meaning Republican, Democrat related elections, fall in March for the primary and November for the final election. This is a city election. City elections and school board elections are nonpartisan elections, and they happen in May of every year. In Frisco City, the rule is that if no candidate gets more than 50% of the vote in May, that the top two vote getters would go into a runoff and the election would be in June. So in this May, I believe there were 4 candidates on the ballot. Nobody got more than 50%. And so 2 people are now in a runoff, and the voting is going on now this week. And the final election day is June 5th.
Very good. Thank you so much for this foundational information. And let's welcome Angelia Pelham. She is one of the 2 runoff candidates for this particular runoff for the Frisco City Council 3. Angelia, thank you so much for being here. I know a campaign is not an easy thing, especially when you have a runoff campaign. It's again, one more campaign added.
Yes.
And I know that you had a whole day of activities. There was election happening from 8 to 5, and then later on you had a meet and greet. So, how is it feeling? How is it going overall?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today. And it's always a pleasure to be with 2 of my favorite people, both Gopal and Lakshmi. So thank you for having me. And Gopal, I just feel like I am running a never-ending marathon, and it's been fun, but it's also very tiring. But I will tell you, probably the most special part of this campaign has been getting out and meeting so many great people that I've never had an opportunity to meet since I've been in Frisco. And so I just left a meet and greet tonight. You have hosted a ton of meet and greets for me over the past several weeks, you and Lakshmi. And so it's been wonderful to see all the great residents in Frisco. I feel like I have an extended family that I did not have before the campaign now.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the entire city is your family now, so
Yes.
Which is very good. And for the benefit of our listeners, Angelia, has been in the city for, I'll let her tell her background, but, just to give some, high level background, she's been here for about 17 years in Frisco. And one thing that I personally like as somebody who's connected with the education is that she has got a nonprofit that hosts a competition, oratory skills competition, speech contest every year. And then, lots and lots of Frisco ISD students have participated, and they were able to, get, good prizes, I think about $60,000 or so, distributed amongst them. But more than the money, I think the opportunity to come out and then speak and excel, that's really great. So that's about one aspect of Angelia, but there are many more, I would like her to say. But more than all those things, right? First and foremost, I am just impressed with the endorsements you have. So, just tell us more about it.
Yes, I'm just honored to have the number of Frisco leaders who have come out to endorse me. Some of which who don't typically do any public endorsements. And so I'm very thankful that a lot of the architects of this great city have decided that they want to put their name behind me. I will start with our own city's mayor, Mayor Jeff Cheney, who has been a phenomenal supporter. He's not only endorsed me both in writing, but he's endorsed me at a number of meet and greets. He's been out on the campaign trail with me. It's just been phenomenal to have his support. I also have the support and endorsement of Councilman John Keating, who is known as America's favorite councilman. Again, Councilman Keating has been just an incredible supporter and endorser as well. He too has been out on the campaign trail with me. I've got Councilman Woodard, who again is another supporter and endorser. Former Frisco City Council member Bob Allen, former Mayor Mike Simpson, and all of the Frisco ISD Board of Trustees have indicated support for my campaign. So again, just a whole host of folks that I am honored and proud to have in my corner.
Excellent. And then tell me a little bit about how you got the Dallas Morning News recommendation. That's not easy to get. And then what was the process you had to go through? And then how did you get through that?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so the Dallas Morning News had a pretty extensive questionnaire. It kind of felt like I was writing my graduate thesis. So you had to submit the questionnaire, and then they had an interview. And it was interesting because all of the candidates running for my seat were on a Zoom call. So we were all on together. And then they had two of their editorial board members. One was asking the questions and one was taking note of our answers. So we got a chance to hear the responses of each of the candidates running for the seat. Obviously, there were 4 candidates that were running for place 3. One candidate opted not to show up for that interview, but the other 2 did, including myself. So there was 3 of us who interviewed, and they just asked a myriad of questions, questions about the future and growth of the city, questions about things like affordable housing, taxes, traffic, transportation. I mean, you name it. They ask questions about, things that matter to the residents of Frisco. And they listened at our answers, and based off of their assessment of our answers and our preparedness, they made a decision. And I'm very grateful and honored that they decided to put their endorsement behind me.
Very nice. I'm very impressed with that. And then you mentioned that, one of the candidates did not show up. So is it the same candidate who did not show up for the Frisco Chambers forum too?
Yes, sir. The candidate that didn't show up for the Dallas Morning News interview is the same candidate that did not show up for the Chamber of Commerce forum a couple weeks ago. And that happens to be the same candidate that I'm running against now here in the runoff.
Well, I'm really glad that, you had a very, very busy day, but, you showed up for us. So, that's really nice of you.
I am glad to be here. I will always do my best to show up. I may show up tired, much like I am tonight, but I will definitely show up.
Perfect. And for the benefit of our listeners, why don't you tell a little bit about your background?
Sure.
How you got into this position where we are today.
Yes, sir. I won't go as far back as I typically go, but I do want to just kind of give people an overview of who I am as a person, because I think that that's important for you to know as you go to the polls. I was raised by 2 parents that didn't have a high school education, but I was taught to value my faith, and I was taught to value education because my parents did not have it and they wanted me to have it. My father, while he didn't have a high school education, he could fix and repair just about anything. And he was repairing this old, affluent, prestigious school in Florida, where I was born. and he was offered by the headmaster to allow one of my father's children, to attend a private school for free. And I was the 8th of 9 children and just happened to be the one child that fit within that age range. So I found myself in a private school, the only person of color with children who had parents that were doctors and lawyers and judges. And so it was very different for me. I felt like I didn't fit in. And then even at home with my 8 siblings, I didn't feel like I fit in there as well, because I was the child that got to go to the private school. Or the white school, as they called it. And so I struggled to fit in, probably much like some immigrants do. I didn't fit in the private school because economically and racially I wasn't like everybody else. And then at home I had a different experience. And so it took me a while to find my bearing. And thank God I had some great mentors who helped me along the way and helped me get comfortable in my own skin. It was really because of that experience that I started public speaking. And it's because of that experience in public speaking which has caused me to launch the MLK oration competition 11 years ago. So I've been fortunate, Gopal, to have gone to college. I went to college off of an academic scholarship in oration competitions, and met my husband there. Been married for 32 years, and then I've had a great career in corporate America for the past 30 years. I started my career with the Walt Disney World Company. I was the director of human resources for the Magic Kingdom, and then went on to PepsiCo, where I spent 8 years as a vice president at Pepsi, as an HR professional on the manufacturing and sales side. And then the back half of my career has been spent as a chief HR officer, executive vice president at Cinemark Holdings, which is the theater company. And then prior to starting my own firm, I was a senior vice president and head of HR for Dave & Buster's. So for the past 3 years, I've run my own consulting firm where I consult CEOs and executive teams on strategic planning, annual operating planning, leadership development, diversity and inclusion, you name it. I spend time consulting my clients on it. So I'm excited to be here. I have been the treasurer for our sitting mayor, Mayor Jeff Cheney, and I've always wanted to take a leadership role in the city that I love. And now that I'm out of corporate, I'm not traveling as much, I have control of my own time, I'm able to now go for something that I have a strong passion for. So I'm excited to be running for council seat 3.
Excellent. I mean, the story, the background that you have is very, very impressive. It's
Thank you.
It's really shaking. I'm very impressed the way you came from the background, and you have now a very illustrious career, and then now you have your own consulting firm. So very impressive. And then it's a thing that a lot of worth emulating. A lot of kids can really understand and get motivated. So congratulations on where you are today.
Thank you.
Very quickly, I would like you to share with our audience your priorities for when you take up this leadership role as a council member.
So my priorities are really simple, Gopal. The first one is all about public safety. I think every individual deserves to feel safe in their home, in their communities, and their children to feel safe in their schools. So there's nothing more important than safety. So public safety and supporting our police officers and our firefighters and our first responders, that's my first priority. Making sure that we have enough police officers and firefighters on our payroll. With a city like ours that's growing by 1,000 new residents every year, we need to make sure that we have enough officers that can protect our city, not only in our homes and in our schools, but on the road with traffic as well. So that's my first priority. The second one is economic growth, supporting our growth engine as a city, ensuring that we're bringing in those companies that can create high-paying jobs so that residents don't have to drive to Plano or to Dallas, but we have those great jobs in our city. And we have those corporate citizens that can bear the brunt of our taxes so that the tax priority is not placed solely on the residents, but it's also shared by our corporate citizens who also make up a large part of our city's revenue. And also with taxes, I know that nobody likes to pay taxes. I know I don't, but one of my platform's priorities is really about reducing our taxes by increasing our homestead exemption and going from 10% to 20%. And then my final priority is really about diversity. 20 years ago, Frisco was 90% white, 10% people of color. Today, we are 60% white, 40% people of color. So we have grown into this beautiful, rich mosaic of cultures and ethnicities and religions, and I love that. I think that's what makes for a healthy city. So I want to ensure that we continue to grow healthy. We have a united stance when it comes to bringing in diversity, and that all of our cultures feel comfortable celebrating and sharing who they are and really just embracing the differences that make up Frisco. So I want to ensure that everyone feels as though they have a voice and that they're heard. And that's a part of my final platform.
Very impressive. Thank you so much. And then in an election like this, maybe, like me, you can answer this more better. Like, in a runoff election, first of all, not many people will know that there's a runoff happening. And then, at the same time, it's very, very important for the community to select the right leader for themselves, because it's not just about some city election. It is an election that will set the stage for in which trajectory we are all moving. So from that standpoint, Lakshmi, can you tell a little bit about how important this election is and then why everybody should go out and then vote?
Absolutely. So, so many people vote in a presidential election. So they think, oh, let's vote for president. And the voter turnout is typically almost 8-9 times what it is in a local election when there's a presidential election in November. But if you think about it, when voter turnout is low is when each vote has the most impact. And in a city election in Frisco, in a city of 120,000, let's say, registered voters, guess how many people vote? 10,000 people vote in a city election. So imagine what your vote can do. And when you think about where is your life affected the most, it is affected by your city and your school district. If you care about your city, if you like the way that your city is now, if you love your school district, you have to make sure that the right people are on city council and on your school board, because that is where you will see the impact if the wrong people are there. So it is extremely important to vote in any city election. And then in a runoff, if there's 10,000 people who normally vote in a city council election, sometimes there's only 3,000 or 4,000 who vote in a runoff. And why is that? They don't know there's a runoff. People voted in May, they thought they were done, they forget, they go on summer vacation. And this is a very critical time at where a candidate that normally would not have maybe been successful has a chance at being successful because not many people vote. And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn when I say that more extreme candidates tend to do really well in a runoff because their voter base is extremely motivated or passionate in one way or the other, whereas the more moderate candidates, and sometimes the most favored candidates, are at risk in a runoff because voter turnout tends to be low, really due to lack of education and knowledge about the process. So really, I think we're all here today, not only for you to meet Angelia, but for you to also understand how important it is that you go vote and that there is a runoff and it's this week. So please, if you're a Frisco resident, I really request you to please go and vote tomorrow, Friday or Saturday, next week, Tuesday or Saturday. And you can see it there on your screen. You have plenty of time. And another thing I'd like to say quickly is a lot of people I've spoken with, have said that sometimes they don't vote because they don't know anything about the candidates. They don't know who their candidates are. So I encourage you to go to sources like Dallas Morning News. They have a full questionnaire that Angelia already talked about, and you can see the answers to those questions on their website. If you Google, Frisco City Council election, Dallas Morning News, you'll see it. League of Women Voters. League of Women Voters has a similar questionnaire, and they publish the answers. So, if you want to get to know about your candidates, there are many ways to be able to do that. Or what many people do is reach out to their trusted friends who are a little bit more involved and ask them, who do I vote for? And if you trust them, then you can also go on that. But I highly encourage you to look at the candidates, meet the candidates. Any good candidate will be accessible to you, and we'll have forums, and we'll answer your questions. So I encourage you to take the time to do that. But please do take a moment to vote. It is critical. And this is a very, very critical election for the city of Frisco. And I could go on for a long time about that, but just know that it's critical and we really need your vote for Angelia.
Sure. So I have a question for both. So, Angelia, maybe, you can, after I ask Lakshmi, you can sort of wrap up, about yourself once again and then do your pitch. But before you do, you need to tell our listeners once again a quick, brief background as to why they vote Angelia. What I want Lakshmi to answer is, provide the information about the locations where people can vote, because typically, there are multiple locations, and also how is it different? And then if you can go through that real quick.
Absolutely. So the rule in Frisco is that you do have to vote in the county that you live in. So if you live in Denton County, half of Frisco is in Denton County, you do have to vote on at the fire station off of Cotton Gin, or the fire station off of Stonebrook near Frisco Lakes, FM 423 in Stonebrook. If you live in Collin County, you have to vote in Collin County. There are only 2 voting booths. One is at Collin County Community College in Frisco, and the other is Independence and Rollator, Fire Station 8, also in Frisco. So it's convenient. Yes, very convenient locations.
So Fire Station 8 and Collin College in Collin County.
Collin County, yep.
And then Fire Station 4 and Fire Station 7 in Denton County.
In Denton County, that's right.
And the timings, once again, if we can have that slide, we had the timings tomorrow. I think it's between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. So tomorrow being the Friday before long weekend, then if anybody is getting leaving work early, they can take some time and then do that. Entire Saturday is available 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's no voting on Sunday and Monday. Then again on Tuesday, if we're not able to do it, it's 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And final election day is Saturday, June 5th. So my urge to every one of you is, try to go and vote tomorrow. Maybe after tomorrow, you'll get busy doing a road trip or something like that. So make sure that, you're voting first and then, leaving the city or something like that.
And there are no lines.
So, yeah,
it takes literally 60 seconds. So, yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's what I've seen. There's absolutely 0 lines. So this is a different election. So thanks a lot, Lakshmi, for providing all the information. And then over to you, Angelia. I would like you to tell our viewers once again a brief background, and then, after that we can close this.
Yeah, so thank you both Lakshmi and Gopal for having me today. And it's an honor to be able to speak on iAsia TV. And I just want the voters to know that there is a lot at stake here with this particular election. The culture of our city is at stake. My opponent has run a pretty divisive race, and is very much attached to a pretty divisive group, and that is not my platform. That's not my priority. My priority is to ensure that we are a united city, and that we're a city that appreciates the diversity of all of its residents. As I think about my candidate, my opponent, who has very clearly defined who her base is. For me, my base is all of Frisco. My base is every single resident in this city. And that's who I'm talking to today. That's who I plead with every day, is to get out and vote. There's so much at stake. You want someone who's going to represent your voice, someone who's going to listen, someone who understands the challenges of the average Frisco resident. And so I really would encourage you to get out and vote. As Lakshmi said, do your homework. You can go to my website at www.angeliaforfrisco.com. We have videos, we have podcasts. You can listen at every video or podcast. It only takes you maybe 5 to 10 minutes per video or podcast. And I talk about everything from taxes to transportation to traffic in a lot more detail. but I would encourage you to do your homework. And then hopefully if I meet and exceed your expectations, that I can earn your vote. And we do need you to go out to the polls to vote. And early voting, as you've heard from both of the hosts here today, is so important and so critical, because we know that people are in the middle of vacation and summer. And so it's hard to miss that one election day, but we have a number of days for early voting. We only have 2 days left for early voting now, or actually 3. We've got Friday, Saturday, and next Tuesday. So please take advantage of these 3 days and get out to vote. I really would appreciate it. And I need your vote. That's the only way that we're going to win this thing, is to have the viewers of iAsia come out and represent. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Angelia. Thank you so much, Lakshmi. Angelia, take rest. We have about 10 more days to go for the last day of election. Take proper rest.
Yes.
Community supports you. So, just do your best. And
thank you so much.
Celebrate after 5th. Thank you.
Thank you.